Good evening, everyone. My name is Michael Schenkel, and I am the chair of ANC 2C. I'd like to welcome you to our April 18th meeting of ANC 2C. And I see that I have 4 commissioners present this evening. So I would like to for the commissioners to introduce themselves if they could. My name is Michael Schenkel, and I am from SMD 2C01, which includes Chinatown and Penn Quarter area.
I'll go next. I'm Becky Strauss. I represent 2C02, which is downtown and K Street.
Commissioner Lee, do you want to go? Commissioner Lee, do you want to do an introduction? We'll move over to Commissioner Rowe.
Okay. My name is Kristen Rowe. I represent 2C04, which includes downtown and city center.
Awesome. And do we have Commissioner Lee?
Here.
Awesome. Do you want to do a quick introduction?
Sure, hold on. I'm sorry, my microphone's not working right now.
Okay.
No, we can hear you.
We can hear you.
Okay, good. Ask me something. I might have missed it when I was.
Oh, I wanted to know if you wanted to do a quick introduction.
Oh, yes, please. My name is Thomas Lee. I live at the Lafayette at the corner of 7th and D Street, Northwest, sister building to the Clara Barton. And this is my first year as commissioner on the ANC. And I've been a resident of the neighborhood for about 12 years now.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I'll just display our agenda for this evening. Am I displaying the agenda there, folks? Yes, I am. Okay, good. We'll start off by just doing an MPD update, a quick MPD update. And then we have the Deputy Mayor of Health and Human Services on, Mr. Turnridge, on with us this evening. We'll hear from the Mayor's office, Council Member Pento's office, and we invited the office of Chairman Phil Mendelson to join us. I will be able to talk sooner or later throughout this agenda. It's been a long day. We will then, as local impacts that impact the community, we will hear of the Veterans Parade, build within a training program that's actually being sponsored through the mayor's office or part of the mayor's office, Lyft scooter education program. And then we have 4 ABRA license that we will review this evening, and a public space permitting process request. Are there any additions or corrections to the agenda, commissioners? Okay. Then do I have a motion to approve the agenda as published? Is there a motion?
I motion that we approve the agenda as published.
Awesome, and I will second that. All those in favor? Okay, 4 of 4 commissioners voting in favor of that. Thank you very much. We have been having a slight challenge with our minute developer of the minutes. That should be resolved shortly, and we apologize for for not posting our minutes or approving them at the moment. We will have that rectified in the next few days so that we can get our minutes published online as well. So we're working through that process. Thomas, do you have a treasurer's report?
Yeah, I do have an update. I
Okay.
don't have a full report yet. I do have quarter one, and I'm working on quarter one right now. I met with the Office of ANC rep, I think Don Dickerson, earlier today to kind of help me get through this learning bump here. The issue that a small issue we're having right now is that we need to get access to our the March 2023 statements from PNC Bank, and we've between me and the previous treasurer, we can't quite we can't quite seem to find the right login. So I need to reach out to PNC Bank with regards to that. But what I do know is that in the last in quarter one, which is the months of October, November, December, we had about $1,000 worth of expenses for the minute taker. And then quarter two, we had, let's see, really quickly, but another $1,000 in expenses as well, for largely also for the minute taker as well. And a rough balance, we have in the bank right now about $66,000. But until I get to the actual March 2023 statements from PNC Bank, I won't have a specific number for you. But the quarter one and quarter two reports are ready, and I will distribute those out to the other commissioners and for them to review and get their signatures so that we can file these reports in with the city.
Do you want us to do that this evening to move to file those reports?
Let's wait till next month.
Yes, we would need to do that before we would submit them.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. Okay, so we're going to delay that until next month.
Yeah, please.
Got it. Okay, and hopefully we'll be able to get access to those. Do we have any questions for the treasurer? Okay. I'd like to call NPD 2. Is Lieutenant Garvin on with us?
Yes, sir. Good evening, everyone.
Awesome, Lieutenant. How are you?
Oh, I'm great. How about you?
Good. Wanted to get you in here so you can get back to work.
I see you guys have a long agenda, so I won't be before you long. This 30 days versus the prior 30 days, we've had a decrease of 11% in violent crime, and we've had a 18% increase in property crime as burglaries, motor vehicle thefts, theft from autos, and thefts. I would just highlight a few of them. We had an ADW gun on April the 4th. It was a pointing, brandishing event, 300 block of 14th Street. We have an arrest warrant pending for an individual. So, okay. Our detectives are actually actively working that case. So we have the individual identified and an arrest warrant is pending. We also had a burglary 2, 1100 block of Connecticut Avenue. That case is open, active. Armed robbery that occurred on April the 15th, 1100 block of Vermont Avenue, which was the 7-Eleven. We actually have an individual, we have a bolo identified. A bolo has been disseminated to the public in reference to the suspect involved in that case. In addition, we actually had a burglary 2 in the 1500 block of Connecticut Avenue. That individual was arrested. We was actually able to catch him as he was fleeing the scene. In addition to that, we had 9 gun recoveries. I won't go over the addresses because I know we get pressed for time. So that's all I have.
Thank you. Good that we did not have any violent crimes I guess that was reported as well, right there. Yeah, which is great. Commissioners, do you have any questions? Go
Yeah,
ahead.
can I ask a question?
Yes.
So like the robberies at like 7-Eleven on Connecticut Ave, were a lot of these crimes sort of like par for the course for downtown, or is it sort of like a worrying trend that's new, like that's a 7-Eleven like downtown 11th in Vermont would have that kind of a robbery? Sort of surprises me, but maybe before it just wasn't like on Twitter now there are people who like are constantly posting this crime happened here at this time. So it could just be that there's just more of a tension on these events, or can you contextualize a little bit like what is changing? Is it like how the crimes are being committed? Is it more brazen? Is it more violent, or no change in trend?
So for the 7-Elevens, most so a crime of opportunity. In different districts, we may have 7-Elevens that are robbed at a particular time, and then they might go from the 6th district and they might come over here and rob the 7-Eleven. So they are like pattern crimes. We've been really good at actually identifying these individuals and arresting them, but every now and then it does surface.
Okay.
Got it. Thank you, Commissioner.
And could I also get an update on how carjackings are being handled? I know that's an issue for the whole city, but do you think like MPD is beginning to turn the corner on those, or it's too difficult?
So we do have a carjacking task force that have made some arrests, and some of those arrests are responsible for multiple carjackings. Our numbers have gone down within our district as far as armed carjackings, which is great. So they're still pushing and trying to make arrests of these individuals, but I believe that it's just a small group of individuals that are committing the majority of these crimes within the entire district.
And what do they usually do with the cars? Because now new cars are so easy to trace. Everybody knows where they are. Is it a rite of passage thing? Do they try to sell the car? What becomes of the cars?
I'm not sure if they do sell them, but I know that sometimes that they commit other crimes in the stolen vehicles.
I see. And then they ditch the vehicle or something.
Yes. They don't hold on to the vehicle too long, or if they do keep the vehicle for a certain amount of time, they will switch the tags off. So they would take the tag off, which will be in our system as stolen, and replace it with a temp tag that may come up in our system as unknown or undetermined.
And why do you think that we had a recent spate in carjackings, like in the last 6 months? Just sort of it becomes like a peer thing, becomes the latest fad.
I'm not sure. I don't want to speculate. Like I said, again, I don't know if it was if there are chop shops or anything where they're getting some type of revenue. I don't know if it's the games that they're playing, Grand Theft Auto on their PS5s, which is pushing this agenda. I'm not sure. It could be just a lot of different things playing and affecting this issue.
And I see.
Are there any other questions from the community?
There was an attempted break-in at the Moy building.
That's MPD 1.
Oh.
Is any other questions for Lieutenant Garvin? We'll move over to MPD 1. Is there anybody from MPD 1 on with us?
Thank you, everyone.
Hey, Commissioner Captain Roth, can you hear me?
Yes. Hi, Captain Roth. How are you?
Actually the field commander for the entire city tonight, so I'm out and about. So I'm doing this from my car, but
just don't be driving.
All right. Definitely stop. I just wanted to touch on, obviously everybody's aware of the shooting that we had in Chinatown It looks like over the last 30 days, we had one ADW gun and one robbery, and one sex abuse that occurred in the ANC. I'll start with the gun because that's what everybody's worried about. So it's kind of frustrating to me. This individual that was shot was actually locked up in Chinatown 2 weeks prior for narcotics, and I think that was by Park Police, and then our guys locked him up shortly after that, I think, for a warrant and some other narcotics offenses. So, and I actually interacted with this individual probably 3 or 4 days prior to him being shot up behind the Pat Handy shelter. So I talked to him and I said, "Hey, man, please don't hang out up here." Asked him where he lived. He didn't live in the area. I asked him to go back to where he was because we were getting a lot of complaints about people hanging out in the area. Offered him some city services and everything was kind of declined. And then, next thing I know, several days later, he is the victim of a shooting. So he is obviously, injured, but he's expected to survive. I got to look a little bit deeper into that. I think it might have stemmed from like an argument, maybe over a dice game. That's kind of what I'm hearing about that, but I got to look into that. So I really don't want to say that for sure. As far as the robbery is concerned, it seemed to be a mental health consumer. Our officers were standing at 7th and H. Well, let me back up and say for the shooting, our officer was standing at 7th and H, and Metro Transit officer, I think, were down at the other end of the block. So they got shot in between two officers. We do have a lookout for a guy on a bicycle. So our detectives are working that case. The robbery, our officers were standing at 7th and H. I'm sure if you are familiar with Chinatown, you know Officers Wong and Officer Davis. Officer Davis was standing there when supposedly a mental health consumer grabbed a water bottle out of somebody's, like, a aluminum water bottle, and threw it at him. He then ran across the street and slammed a Vietnamese lady to the ground and stole her purse and took like $450 out of it. The officers chased him. There was actually an off-duty, I think, Alexandria police officer down at the end of the block. He ended up tackling him for us, and we placed him under arrest. Unfortunately, he was not papered as a robbery. He was papered as a simple assault and a theft and released. They did give us a stay away from Chinatown. So every arrest that we make now, we ask for a stay away from the Chinatown area. It's hit or miss if they actually grant it or not. What's interesting about this individual is he was locked up several days prior. I think this occurred on April 3rd or 4th, and he was locked up on March 31st for an attempted robbery at the Potomac Avenue station by Metro Transit Police. So he committed 2 violent crimes and was again released into the community to offend again. So, and then the sex abuse, it seems to be a domestic violence situation between known parties. So not a stranger case or anything like that. So from what I understand, the Pat Handy shelter has either closed or is closing imminently. I drove through the area today. It seems, I don't really want to speak these words into existence, but it seems like there's a lot less hanging out in the last couple of days. I sent my crime suppression team up there yesterday. They did make an arrest for some narcotics at the Gallery 7th and H near the Metro. But just to give you guys an update, not only is MPD up there working, Metro Transit is working. We're getting help from Park Police. The U.S. Marshals were up there looking for somebody that was wanted the other day. So there's a lot of law enforcement activity that's taking place up there. A lot of Park Police and Metro are doing like some plainclothes operations to get, and they've made significant drug arrests up there recently. So I say all that to say is, everything that we can do from a law enforcement standpoint, we're all on the same like group email so that we share information with each other about, regarding arrests and what we're seeing and what we can do to, assist each other. So, and then I went up there the other day and I went into a few of the businesses that we're getting some thefts from. I recommended some I guess some security changes to the buildings or to the how they're operating. Maybe, you know, not leaving merchandise right next to the door so it can't be snatched as people are leaving, blocking things off. So, you know, putting up some plexiglass so that they have to ask you for the product before they can't just come in and grab it and walk out. And honestly, it seems like it's going to be a fight to get them to make some changes. You know,
Right.
the only thing I can do is make suggestions on how to best secure the property, but it's really going to be incumbent upon them to make the changes.
Right. Thank you for that. I did want to say that the number of individuals that appear to be selling something in that area, I was up there over the weekend and it was just packed with people that were selling something. And it's very obvious to me that it's probably an illicit something that's happening just by what's happening there. And just the amount of people congregating is concerning. I know that there's, no issues. We can't do anything about congregation of individuals. But I wonder if the police presence actually at the metro stop would be more effective than across the street at kind of the bank area.
Yeah.
So they should be. I have face-to-face relief. There should be a car. I mean, due to we all know what MPD's manpower look like, but there is generally a car parked at 7th and H, and it should be either in front of the Walgreens or across the street in front of the Metro. I know Metro Transit has helped us out, and prior to this weekend shooting, I want to say since we put that car down, like the violent crime has been down like 90%. So a lot of what is taking place up there seems to be property crime, and open, I guess, smoking and drinking in public. We were up there the other day. We made a few arrests for open containers and stuff like that. So, we try our best to move the groups along, you know what I mean? But it's one of those things where it's like we move them from 8th Street, they move over to 7th, we move them from 7th, they move up to I. You know what I mean? It's just we're chasing them all the way around. We make the arrests where we can. And it's one of those things where it's, if they're smoking in public, that's what I know. It's annoying, but at the same time, it's one of those things where it's like they're probably going to be citationed and back up in Chinatown before the officer is done with the paperwork.
Yeah,
we'll still make the arrest, but a lot of times, obviously you guys are going to see it more than we do because when we're around, generally they don't. They kind of put it away or they hide the beer or whatever it is. So. But we do, like I said, we have been out there. We've been trying to get them mental health services. We've been trying to get them really just any kind of city resources. I talked to a bunch of guys that were looking for jobs. So the Mokers, I think, are going to have another walk up there relatively shortly. So hopefully, we can get more city resources up there. And then once the shelter is finally closed for renovations, I think that's going to have a significant impact on the area.
I would agree with you. Commissioner Lee, you have a question here?
Yeah, I've got two questions. Officer Roth, or Captain Roth, why was this gentleman that had a robbery, then robbed another lady, released again and not charged with the second robbery? I don't quite understand. Is that the district attorneys deciding not to charge the individual and keep him
the long and the short of it is, I don't know if you watched any of the oversight hearings recently, but DC is not in control of the U.S. Attorney's Office. That's a federal court. So when it comes to charging decisions, I think this is one of the, I don't want to get too political, and I'm sure that, the council members can, someone from the mayor's office can chime in on this. I don't want to speak out of turn, but it's not like a local court. So I don't know what influence the council or the residents really have on the U.S. Attorney's Office. So the OAG is, I guess, more of like the local court. They deal with the juvenile stuff. And that we have an attorney general, and I believe that he's elected by the residents. So, but that's not the case for USAO. I believe they're appointed by the feds.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I don't know. I honestly can't say why this person wasn't charged with the robbery. I mean, honestly, it happened right in front of the police officer. Was probably captured on his body-worn camera. The offense was probably captured on his camera, or one of the dozens of cameras around Gallery Place. I don't know the logic behind not prosecuting. So, or I guess not charging the felony. I guess they are going to go forward with misdemeanor charges, but
I mean, are these records public information? Like, are these decisions open to the public scrutiny?
I believe there was an article in the Washington Post a couple of weeks ago that spoke about this. I don't know that article offhand. I'm sure you could Google it, but it was about how most of the offenses don't get charged. You've heard the chief speak about, I can't remember how many he said. There's upwards of 50 people or something walking around the city that have been charged with homicides. The average homicide suspect has been arrested 11 times or something outrageous. You know what I mean? So these are all things. These are all challenges. It's not to say that we're not making arrests and we're not solving a lot of these crimes. It's just they're not holding them in jail, and we're arresting the same people over and over again.
Yes, the accountability seems to have been
so
lost.
I mean, is this Merrick Garland that's appointing these, or is it the President Biden? I mean, who do we appeal to?
I mean, I don't want to get into the politics of it, but I would assume that however a federal judge is appointed, that's how it would work out here as well. And I think maybe Father DeRosa just put it in the chat. So
we're gonna move forward to have we have one question hand raised, and that's Howard Mars.
Yeah, thank you, Captain Roth, for your efforts. Tonight there were 6 police cars that pulled in front of our building about 5 p.m., including a plainclothes car. So there were 7 altogether. One of our concierge said there was someone brandishing a gun or something. Do you know about this incident? Occurred about 90 minutes ago?
I do not. I had to come up to the 3rd district, like I mentioned. I am the essentially the watch commander for the entire district tonight. So they had a bank robbery and a shooting up here themselves. So I had to respond up here. I can check with the 1D watch commander and shoot you an email and try to find out what was going on. I haven't seen anything come out on my email. Normally we are all on the 1D management team is on an email chain. So if something significant comes out, there may have been a report of a man with a gun, and then that might have been a response. Whether they found anything or not, I'm not certain.
Okay. The second thing is that you mentioned about problems with theft of merchandise. So we have a sort of a quirky thing going on. We have some of these drug dealers, would you believe, selling laundry detergent, Tide laundry detergent. It's actually, if you Google it, you'll see it. It's become like a form of currency amongst drug dealers. What do you know about this? The use of especially Tide?
Yeah. So, I mean, this has been a problem. I've been on the department for 15 years, and it's kind of like the same thing all over the place. When I was east of the river, now that I'm up here, it's they'll go into a CVS or a Walgreens or whatever. They will take laundry detergent, deodorant, toothpaste, things like that, and then they'll come out here and sell them for a profit. We did make a pretty significant arrest. It was down in Southeast. A bunch of individuals were coming to the CVS down there off of I think it's M Street. And they were literally pulling up in stolen cars, walking in, stealing a bunch of merchandise, getting back in their cars. We ended up locking up a bunch of them and tracking down, I think, kind of like the little group that was involved. And I think they did like, I forget what it's called, but I don't know if they aggregated all of the offenses together and made it a felony or whatever. But yes, it does happen. We are aware of it. We try to prevent it as much as we can. But it's really incumbent upon like the Walgreens and the CVS to call us and let us know that people are shoplifting in there.
Yeah, I know the CVS at 655 K Street Northwest, the ones that my wife and I go to, they were cleared out of toothpaste. Yes, toothpaste. Dozens and dozens of tubes gone, and they have not been replaced because they're looking for a locked case to put it in.
Yeah,
we're going to have to move forward.
Okay.
Thank
you. Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you, Captain Roth. I appreciate you being here, and Lieutenant Garvin and providing us an update.
Sure.
We would like to move forward, and I'd like to welcome Deputy Mayor Wayne Turnage with us tonight, who is going to present an overview of the mayor's budget.
Good evening.
Good evening. How are you doing?
I'm doing fine.
Thank you for joining us.
Oh, thanks for having me. I am joined by members of my team, which includes my Chief of Staff, Kiana Creighton, and my policy staff, Brian Harrison and Jane O. And I don't know if it's Jamal, my Deputy Chief of Staff, and our eyes and ears and expertise on the ground in dealing with encampments, and Sakina Thompson, our legal counsel, who guides us to keep us out of trouble when we are dealing with all sorts of issues, including encampments. I know that you all have probably tons of questions. Our background is health and human services. I understand you may have questions about other areas. There is a gentleman on the call from the mayor's Mocha's office. We can certainly take down questions that we can't answer about things outside of our cluster and get back to you. I want to give you a quick overview of the mayor's budget and then move as rapidly as I can through it so I can leave you all some moments for a question. So Kiana is working the slides, and so Kiana, if you could go to the next slide. I wanted to sort of begin by, because this helps set the tone for sort of where the challenge we ended up having with this particular budget. But I wanted to talk a little bit about just some of the highlights that came out of the recovery from the pandemic. Because of a significant infusion of federal dollars, we were able to put substantial amounts of money towards producing and preserving affordable housing, providing rental assistance, almost $1 billion. The businesses in this area got over $693 million through copious grants for various aspects of business job training. And some of the residents got dollars for cash assistance and access to food training, to food access. We also spent almost $150 million on gun violence prevention in recognition of the serious problem that the city is struggling with some of our young folks and their propensity to engage in violent acts. A lot of money was put towards school supports to try to deal with some of the issues that surfaced by having schools closed or schools being on virtual learning, very difficult transition. And we put money in paying for insurance premiums for residents and certain businesses to make sure that they had access to their insurance at a time when they may not have had the income to continue to pay their premiums. Next slide, please. So we came out of that environment having spent a lot of money. If you want to get some sense for how much we how much we were provided by the feds. I think we got sort of 8 billion in one tranche and another 8 billion in another tranche. It's a lot of money. But when this budget was put together, the budget environment began to shift a little bit. We were coming out of the pandemic, doing really well. Job creation was up. But the challenge we faced came about because of several things. One was the monetary policy by the federal government in an effort to fight high inflation. The Federal Reserve primed the pump on interest rates. That created some long-term impacts, and there were other challenges that we had on the spending side. And so, if you go to the next slide, you will see that if you look to the right hand side of that slide, we had to spend almost $1 billion to fully fund the collective bargaining agreements that were where we had retroactive payments due, and we had to fully fund DC government retirement accounts. That's almost $1 billion. We identified another $124 million in costs for inflation, for schools, recs, and library projects. And then we had $722 million in fund increases to the school funding formula, leasing costs, and the Medicaid program, which is the largest insurance program in the country. And in the district, it funds insurance for almost half of the city's residents. When you factor that in with the fact that the city's financial officer, in developing the forecast for the financial plan, indicated that we would have actually it was over $400 and some million less in revenue in the out years of the financial plan. This slide says 390 because it reflects the positive situation we had in 24. But in the out years beyond 24, the bottom sort of fell out of the revenue forecast. And when you combine those two things, significant costs with a decline in revenue picture, the mayor had to deal with a $1.7 billion budget deficit. So what did she do? Next slide. I'm not going to discuss each of these items, but this gives you some sense for how the mayor and her really expert budget team put together a proposal for the council that is before them now to balance a budget that had a $1.7 billion gap in it. There was a use of the fiscal stabilization reserve. We also, the CFO for the first time began to certify the expected revenue from automatic traffic enforcement cameras, and they were substantially increased in numbers. New cameras for fiscal year 22 and 23. That revenue is now being forecast. And we also took advantage of some opportunities to maximize federal reimbursements. And the mayor cut $373 million of programs and positions to get to this a point where we could say the budget was balanced. I will say that one of the more controversial positions that she took was to fund most programs and services at their pre-pandemic levels. When you have a $1.7 billion gap, you just can't, sometimes it's just not possible to nibble around the edges and close that kind of gap. So the result of all that is shown on the next slide, which indicates that we have a $19.7 billion gross funds budget, of which $10.6 billion is local. The local increase actually, the local resources actually reflects a decline of $110 million. And if you look at how that money is allocated, the largest portion of the mayor's proposed budget goes to human support services, about $6.29 billion. That's 32% of the operating budget. And then you see the other functions of local government that draw less but significant dollars. Schools, $3.98 billion. And you're going on down the line till you basically exhaust an operating budget of $10.6 billion. Next slide, please. capital budget took a pretty significant hit. We had to decrease capital spending by over the 6-year capital budget by 5.5%. Now the budget still over a 6-year period is still $10.3 billion. And despite the limitations that we faced in trying to reduce the capital spend so we could ensure Wall Street that we could service the debt, you had significant spending on school modernization projects, including major investments in the new HVAC systems. There's some roadwork redesign, and we're looking, and the mayor is proposing a series of modernizations in some of our rec centers. But above all, you had a 10.3 budget, which was $10.3 billion budget, which was down 5.5%. Next slide, please. I'm gonna quickly run through a couple of areas of potential interest, and then we'll be ready to take your questions. There's a misnomer about the district's funding for schools. The mayor and her team have taken a lot of heat because people believe that the increase in funding for schools is insufficient. Well, this district coming into the year was spending $2 billion in the uniform per student funding formula towards, this is both for public and charter schools. And they increased that amount by $145 million. The mayor also proposed $116 million to support higher wages for teachers in both public and charter schools. And she had a special $6.8 million proposal for special education. And it's called a Special Education Enhancement Fund, and where she's trying to get counsel to see the wisdom of funding dedicated child care slots for infants and toddlers with disabilities. And this is for out of school time slots for children with disabilities. And in addition, there are some dollars being spent to raise the eligibility for child care subsidy from 250% of the federal poverty to 300% of the federal poverty level. Next slide, please. A lot of major capital investments in education, even with the decline in spending in the capital budget. I won't list all of them, but certainly you will see that and we can send you this slide if you send my chief of staff your email. She's more than happy to return a copy of this presentation. And there are larger presentations as well that have more detail. But most of the capital investments in education obviously go towards renovating and expanding some of our schools. Again, we're talking, well over $200 million. Next slide, please. Big allocations in transportation safety and mobility. The roadways and sideways in the city often have some design issues that make them dangerous. And so the mayor is proposing spending $258 million to design some of the more dangerous roadways, hopefully improve public safety. And there's a $148 million for new or rehabilitated trail segments, and $36 million to build more protected bike lanes, which is very popular with many of our residents, and not as popular with some. But the mayor believes it's important to increase mobility in the city and do it in a way that's safe, that ensures that people can move from place to place, even if you're not in a car, in a very safe manner. And also to make sure that travel is faster and more reliable. She's proposing $114 million to build bus-only lanes and provide other bus priority treatments, again, to help the mass transit system become more efficient and effective. I mentioned earlier there was a substantial increase in the traffic cameras, and the mayor has asked that a task force be formed, or she's formed the task force to look at issues around equity and safety. As the mayor says, she hopes these cameras don't give us a nickel, which would mean people are being safer in the way that they operate their vehicles. But of course, we fully expect, given the history, that these cameras could produce over $570 million because of people driving, speeding, driving recklessly, and endangering folks' lives. So one of the concerns is, traffic tickets are very regressive, particularly for folks who, on the lower income scale. And there's a question as to whether anything can be done to mitigate the level of regressivity. Not sure that it can, but that's something they will be looking at. Public safety is a big issue, as you all were discussing earlier. The push by the mayors on two fronts. One is try to break the cycle of violence that we see in some of our communities with a range of programs to not only help the victims of crime, but also try to interrupt persons who are on the path to becoming hardened criminals. And in addition, putting about almost $30 million in the fire and EMS emergency response vehicles. There's a huge $277 million allocation to build a new annex to the correctional treatment facility. It's an unfortunate expenditure, but one that is necessary, and it's an indication of just how significant the challenge is of creating a safe environment. The mayor, obviously, on the other front, she wants to maintain a strong police force. There's a effort to continue with $5.4 million in investments in recruitment and conversion bonuses. These for new hires, and often, and maybe to increase the attractiveness of the police force by offering expanded educational incentives. There's also an investment to support additional staff for the civilian, they call it the civilianization efforts. And this will supposedly lessen the need for sworn officers when you can use civilian roles and for duties that don't require a criminal presence. Next slide. Lots of, in this city, there's always lots of resources being directed towards affordable housing. It's a very expensive city in which to live. And although the mayor's allocation to housing had to suffer some reductions like all areas of government, we still, there's still some very significant new investments, as you see on the bottom half of the left side of the page, including another $31 million to fund the Housing Production Trust Fund at $100 million, which is her promise that she made upon taking office, that she would put at least $100 million in the Housing Production Trust Fund every year. And there's also a massive effort to expand and improve public housing in the district. We have some historical and housing projects, Berry Farm, Park Morton, Northwest One. These units and others have 735 new public housing replacement units that are hope to be brought online. It's $135 million. And then there's another $115 million being allocated to renovate, to rehabilitate and modernize some of the existing public housing units. We know that about 25% of our public housing units are offline because they're in disrepair, and another 25% probably should be offline. So this is a major effort to bring them on board. And lastly, I'll just touch on the Health and Human Services, which is our cluster, the one that I am certainly most familiar with in terms of, especially on the healthcare side. As you can see, during the pandemic, this district spent, just during the first half of this year, the district spent $43 million in emergency rental assistance, $146 million for permanent supportive housing, and the local rent subsidy program, and $6.9 million, almost $7 million to support low barrier shelter operations. The new investments are listed on the lower half of the page. Most notably, another $42 million to support rental assistance through the Family Rehousing Stabilization Program. The program that I that I oversee in my role as director. Medicaid gets 24.4 million, actually goes to DBH for behavioral health services. And then there are a list of other services that are being funded in smaller amounts. That gives you a very, very quick overview of some of the impressive investments that the mayor has made in a budget that was extraordinarily difficult to put together because of the $1.7 billion gap. And so with that, so not to take all of your time, we will, I'm ready to open the floor to any questions that you all might have of me and my team.
Thank you so much, Deputy Mayor. I really appreciate you being here and providing this overview of what we can anticipate in the coming year and years in the city. And I appreciate the challenge with trying to find $1.7 billion hiding out somewhere in the process. Commissioners, do other commissioners have any questions for the deputy mayor?
I have a question. Can we get a copy of these slides?
Absolutely.
Okay.
We'll send you this was a truncated version.
Okay.
We'll send you the version that the mayor delivered to the council at the mayor council breakfast a couple of weeks ago.
Okay. Thank you. That would be very helpful.
Absolutely.
It's a lot of details,
Yes,
and I'm trying to track it, but it's easier to have it in writing in front of us. Thank you.
Christopher Powell has put his
Yeah.
email address up if you want to send him your information directly, and he will make sure that you get the presentation that the mayor presented to the council again a couple of weeks ago.
Okay, thank you.
Is in Health and Human Services, which is one of the major challenges that we have experienced in Chinatown, Penn Quarter, downtown, needing a lot of support. Do you find that this budget and these numbers that are currently being displayed are sufficient for you to be able to accomplish a notable change in the community?
Yeah, I think first of all, the district spends more on housing, affordable housing per capita, probably than any other jurisdiction in the country.
Mhm.
But you're right, the pandemic created a significant challenge that a lot of jurisdictions are dealing with. When the cities basically emptied out and CMS recommended or advised local governments to not move individuals who were sleeping outside because they were fearful of going inside because of the virus.
Mhm.
Areas that were not routinely inhabited by persons who were looking for shelter became their home.
Yeah.
And it created some challenges as we came out of the pandemic. And now we have to figure out a way to humanely deal with some of the challenges that are created by downtown encampments or encampments anywhere.
Yeah.
The mayor is of the belief that people should not have to live outside. And we spend a lot of money on shelter. We spend a lot of money on transitional housing. And we have a lot of money invested in permanent supportive housing vouchers. We struggle with case management because that's a vital resource needed when you're dealing with housing vouchers. And right now we have difficulty, as do most localities, in finding people who are willing to be case managers. So I think we have the resources. The challenge is, can we come up with some operational changes that will allow us to address some of the problems that you see in Chinatown and other areas of the city? But the resources, I believe, are there.
Got it. Thank you. Other commissioners?
Yeah, sorry, this is Commissioner Zagraniczny. I am from 2F, so not exactly in 2C, but Looking at this budget, and Mr. Turnage, I do hear you saying that, you believe that these resources are sufficient. However, with deep cuts coming to emergency rental assistance programs, to SNAP, to TANF, and also with only 18% of our housing vouchers being utilized, how do you see, how does your office plan on addressing some of the setbacks that we've seen, especially around the McPherson Square clearing, in which the majority of those people have not been housed yet?
Well, like I said, I don't think it's a resource issue. It's an issue where we have. I think if you look at the total number of vouchers that we have that have been either matched to a person seeking a unit, or that are in the supply waiting to be matched, when you consider there are about 1,400 people in shelter, about 300 people living in encampments, we have vouchers to address that problem. The issue is, how can we get enough units online fast enough, and how can we get case managers in a sufficient number to help us effectuate a match between a person who's getting a voucher and a unit. We can't put someone who has been living on the street or living in shelter in a unit without the assistance of a case manager, because you are creating the possibility that that placement will collapse. Mm-hmm. So it's not a resource issue in terms of dollars being allocated to a problem. It's a question about how we deal with the challenges that have been created by the pandemic that will allow us to maximize the resources that we have and put them to the highest and best use. I'm very, very familiar with the McPherson Square project. There were 74 people there. Once we informed the residents that the site would be closing, we offered engagement for every resident that was there. About 54 took us up on the engagement. We offered bridge housing to everyone who engaged with us. And I don't have the stats in front of me. Maybe Jamal has them. If he can look for them while we're talking. A significant number engaged, and if they're not in a permanent placement, they are not in the street. McPherson was a very, very dangerous encampment, not just because of the exposure to the cold, but there were challenges with lots of crime, and I just don't believe that it is humane for people to have to live in that condition. And so we did the best we could with the significant resources we had. But at the end of the day, we understand that there is sometimes some reluctance or some reticence on a part of persons who have been experiencing homeless to work with the government. And we just have to work hard every day to try to overcome that reluctance and let them know that we are trying to look out for their best interest.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that. And we have another one additional hand raised, and this is Mark Gilbert.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, Mark.
Yeah, I guess a couple quick questions and a couple comments. One is about the budget, and I guess I'd like to ask, having worked in the federal and in the state government, there'll never ever be enough money to resolve all the issues we have. To what extent do you actually look at your programs and money and programs you're putting money into and make some sort of determination of how effective they are? Across the United States, we seem to be pouring tons of money into education, but the results really aren't there. So I guess my first question is to what extent you are actually measuring the success of any of the programs you have.
Well, okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
And my second point is just my pet peeve with regard to the automated traffic enforcement that's going in. I don't really mind it, but I would like it to be equitable, because I don't think the only people on the road that are doing crazy things are people in cars. Having lived here, just moved here the last couple of years, between the pedestrians and the people on all sorts of motor vehicles that are driving up and down the street, backwards, sideways, on the other side of the road, I would hope that they would get caught by this automatic system as well, but I doubt it. I think we're just going to be focusing on cars, and I think that's unfair.
Yeah. No, we are sort of, we have similar views on the kinds of issues that have created safety issues on our streets. I think people using those all-terrain vehicles to drive like they are absolutely out of their minds is a problem. I think MPD has a program that targets the use of those vehicles on public streets. And I don't have, I'm not privy to all the details of that program, but I heard it's pretty sophisticated, and they can, even when they don't catch the person actually driving the vehicle, they can locate it and seize it. So MPD will continue to do what it does. I think you're right. I think, you know, sometimes people who are riding bikes disregard the basic traffic rules, and that creates some risk. And then you have drivers who, you know, either knowingly or unwittingly sometimes become pretty reckless. So I don't know if you can apply or expect that the cameras will be applied to vehicles other than cars, but I think there are other means to get at some of the problems that you identified. But I think you're spot on that the problem is greater than just people driving cars. As for how we evaluate programs, there are many evaluations that are done on a regular basis in a lot of the programs. To try to sort of outline all of them on this call would be futile. But there are some programs that need to be evaluated where we don't know how well they work, and that process is underway as well. We spend a lot of money on training programs, over $100 million, and the question is, you know, what is their efficacy? We know about the performance of the schools. The schools are probably evaluated more than any other line item in the budget. The outcomes are very easy to identify, and where they fall short, adjustments are often sought. And the adjustments don't always mean pour money at it, but we try to hire experts in education to provide us with the best advice on some of the strategies that can be executed to improve the performance of our kids in school. But there are programs in government that have been funded for a while that have not been put to a rigorous evaluation. And I think that's one of the things that the city administrator will be looking at as we move through this 6-year plan.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I appreciate that. I want to be respectful of your time. Do you have some additional time to take some more questions?
Sure, I do.
So we have 3 questions that are three people that are identified. I'd like to use those 3 individuals as our last 3 questions, and we'll go to Father DeRosa.
Good evening, Mr. Deputy Mayor.
Good evening, Father.
Sir, just a question. I've asked this of council people, and none of them have gotten back to me. And I'll ask it now of you as the head of the Human Services. We have been told that the reason why the men have stayed so long here in Chinatown, the homeless men at the handy shelter, is because the building that they were supposed to move into was long delayed in its construction. And we know that there was not adequate communication with the community, and that we have all suffered as a result. And the people who have suffered the most are the homeless themselves, in terms of what's happened to them on the streets here in Chinatown. So my question is, as far as accountability, is the company that delayed the delivery of that new building, are they being held accountable because public monies were spent for a building that was not delivered on time for the good of the homeless? And the second matter of accountability is, somebody on your staff thought it was a good idea to put these men in Chinatown. And we've asked over and over and over and over again, who was that person? Because if we've suffered through the last 3 years and nobody is held accountable, and we just keep on, we keep on keeping on, I don't find that acceptable as a matter of good governance. So I'd like to know, sir, who's responsible and what is being done to discipline the companies or individuals in these matters.
Thank you, Father. You asked 2 very important questions. And I believe that the contractor who performed the substandard work is being dealt with. I will confirm that after my after this call tonight, and I will. If you can send me an email, I will respond to you tomorrow with the details of what we are doing in that regard. I will not put that off. As for decisions about how residents who are experiencing homelessness are moved from one shelter to another, based on whatever circumstances, those decisions belong to DHS and the director, Laura Zeilinger, and her team. They make a decision, they report that up through me, and it goes to the CA, and if we don't have any objections, then they move forward. I can't think back exactly when, and maybe you can tell me exactly when the men were moved into the Pat Handy shelter. It may have been slightly before my time coming on board in 2018. May not have been. It's not a cop out.
It was in 2020, sir.
Yeah, well, then that decision would have been made by DHS. She would have sent a decision memo, either written or verbally through me to the CA, and we would have approved it by responding either orally or in writing. So it is a group effort, and so we are all to be considered accountable. I will get the details on the efforts to bring to heal the contractors who did the substandard work, and I'll get that information to you tomorrow.
I thank you, sir.
Thank you. I appreciate that, and not to contradict, but this has been a tremendously challenging issue for Chinatown, and DHS has been less than transparent with us about this process, and in fact have articulated numerous times that this decision has come from you to put folks, the guys there. And we just want to make sure that it doesn't happen again, and that residents of our neighborhood and our community are not blindsided by or hoodwinkled into believing one thing, that a building was in such disrepair that it was uninhabitable for the women, and 2 months later, men are in that establishment. So I think that is something that Father DeRosa is really trying to drive home, the point that there has been zero accountability from DHS for being transparent about the Pat Handy Legacy Center.
All right, let me try this. The best way to move forward on any issue for which the Department of Human Services is not being transparent is to either call me or email me directly. My number, it's 24/7. My cell number is 202-821-9673. Now, we deal with a lot of issues, and sometimes, I have to step back and do my own research to figure out, how did that play out? What was my role? What was everybody's role? But I would need you all to reach out directly to me if you are having issues with any agency in our cluster of being transparent. I will always be transparent. Sometimes you will, you won't like the results of the transparency. Sometimes you will. But I firmly believe that as taxpayers, you all deserve the right to know what decisions we make, how we made them, and we need to understand what the consequences of those decisions are. So you can always reach out by cell or email. My email is my name, Wayne.Turnage@dc.gov. I vaguely remember the discussions around Pat Handy and how the community viewed it as a bait and switch. And then the problems came with the contractor not doing a good job, and the removal of the movement of the men who have been placed there, against the community's wishes was then delayed because it just was a difficult project. But I need to go back and spend some time to figure out exactly what happened, what will happen in the future, and I'll be sure to let you know. And again, I will also look at what's going on with the contract.
Thank you so much. Appreciate that.
Are you open to having a town hall in person by any chance, Mr. Turnage, to address these concerns?
A town hall to do what? I'm sorry.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I want to move forward. I'm not sure who that was, but I want to move forward with Suzanne Sufford.
Yes, hello. Thank you, Michael. So I appreciate everything you just said tremendously. I'd like to look at this from a slightly different angle. And I'm going to try to be diplomatic, but I will probably in the end fail to do so. DHS has been incredibly non-responsive, and they've been profoundly dishonest with this community. And I know from my own career experience that nobody goes into civil service intending to do a bad job, to alienate and piss off the communities they're trying to serve, to do a disservice to the communities they intend to serve. And I'm speaking about the men in the shelter, as well as those of us living in the neighborhood in our own homes. So it's been 3 years of us being told things that never played out as true. And my question is, in trying to understand this, is the lack of proper management of that contractor, is the lack of transparency, the lies that we've been told, is that because DHS doesn't have adequate staffing? Which leads me to my real question, which is, with this budget, will there be adequate staffing such that these types of failures to perform are avoided?
Well, first, whether you have one staff or 100 staff, there's no rationale or justification for not being honest. Are there staffing issues at DHS? Yes, many of them not of their own making. The work patterns of service workers and of government workers have changed dramatically since the pandemic. And we have lots of vacancies in areas where we need critical help. That creates problems in the pipeline. It does not impact, and it should not impact, the ability of staff to speak with veracity. So, you know, I'm not privy to the things that were told to the community by DHS. And so I can't speak to if they were not true. Was it an intentional misrepresentation, or were they somehow mistaken based on what they thought would happen and it just did not happen? But I can say that when you reach out to me, before I answer an email, I will do diligent research to determine exactly what is going on, what the likely outcomes will be, and I will provide that information as requested. And I'll do it. I typically do it in email. I'll have a phone conversation, but I'll follow with email so there can be no misunderstanding as to what was said. And so if there's ever any question about whether or not DHS or any other agency is being honest, if you have questions about an issue that you can't get an answer to, or if you're just frustrated about the way something is proceeding, I am more than willing, and my staff is more than willing in the deputy mayor's office to receive those complaints and then respond accordingly. And my staff know that my philosophy is, I have several, and one is you always have to be transparent. You cannot lie. And like one of my former bosses, Governor Warner, used to say, bad news does not like fine wine. It does not get better with time. So just tell it and deal with it. And so that's the way I operate.
Yeah.
And if you find that the agencies that what you are dealing with are not operating in that fashion, you can call me or you can talk to me or my staff.
So thank you for that. And our final question will go to Terry Carter.
Hi, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
2 points. One, if DHS is so non-transparent and unaccountable, why haven't top management there been replaced? And my second question is, a lot of the funds in the previous budget that were allocated for housing and other social services went unspent. Has the city considered partnering with organizations in the city that do this on a daily basis, such as Bread for the City and My Sister's Place in a Wider Circle, and there's myriad organizations here that could use more staffing, particularly more staffing and money for that staffing. Thank you.
To your last question first, we already contract with a number of community service organizations to provide a range of services and outreach and other and harder services that we need when dealing with residents who are experiencing homelessness or who are at risk for some of the challenges that you all have discussed tonight. What we are seeing is that they are experiencing the same problems in identifying a sufficient number of staff to work for them as well. So we say, look, here are resources. We want to increase the resources on your contract to hire more staff. And they say we're having trouble hiring staff.
Mm-hmm.
So that is a problem that, again, it's not peculiar to DC. You will see it in almost every major urban area that you would visit. To your first question, I can assure you, if the mayor comes to the conclusion that the leadership of any agency is being consistently and continually disingenuous, non-transparent, or more seriously, engaging in prevarications, then action will be taken. You know, I know Laura Zeilinger very well. She is one of the more talented persons in her field. And, you know, I have not had the experience of her being disingenuous with me. And I know she works awfully hard, works long hours, and she's always trying to do the right thing. Her staff support has gone up and down based on people coming and leaving. And you know, I have found her to be exceptionally talented at what she does. Now, do people always agree with her? No. Sometimes we don't agree with her. Sometimes we have very heated discussions about some of the issues that we have to deal with. But none of that is a reason or justification for non-transparency. And that is why I will repeat, when you have questions that which you do not believe are either getting answered or getting answered accurately, just reach out to me or my staff directly, and we will weigh in, which is one of our jobs.
Thank you so much, very much, Deputy Mayor. We appreciate you being here, taking so much time with us to answer the budget, present the budget question, the budget set, and to answer a variety of questions for us. Your answers were very informative, and we definitely appreciate that. And you will probably get 100 calls to your cell phone.
Sure. That's no problem. Thank you very much. And
Thank you so
I will say this: if you call and I don't answer, do not let it go to voicemail, because sometimes if a mobile call goes to voicemail, it won't show up on the call log. Just hang up, and I'll see it on the log, and I can hit redial. But if you leave me a voice message, sometimes the voice message might not come for 2 days. I have never figured out why that happens. But I know it happens because it really gets me angry when it does. So if you call and I don't answer, just hang up. But I typically will answer because I have my phone with me 24/7.
Got it. Thank you so very much. We greatly appreciate you.
Take care.
And thank you for your service.
All right.
Is Christopher still on with us? And Christopher, I know that we talked earlier today, and I didn't know if you wanted to weigh in on anything. If not, we will move forward.
Hi guys, I'm here.
Sorry, Christopher.
No, it's okay. I don't have anything to add except, I'm gonna link my information again in the chat if there was anything that you guys wanted to follow up on. I know Kristen wanted the presentation, as well as I think David Payne asked for it as well. So if anyone else wanted it, you can email me. I'll link my stuff in the chat one more time. But we appreciate the time letting us present, and Deputy Mayor did a great job.
Yes, did an awesome job. Awesome job. Thank you very much, Christopher, for getting this on our agenda. Anybody, do we have Pablo from Councilmember Pinto's office with us?
Hi, yes, how you doing?
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing well, happy to be here. If it's all right with you all, I do have a presentation to accompany updates for today. If I could go ahead and share my screen.
By all means.
Right. Sorry, it doesn't seem to be working, so I'll just go ahead and move along. Sorry about that. Hopefully we'll get that ready for next month. But to go ahead and jump into our updates, as you just heard from Deputy Mayor Turnage extensively, Mayor Bowser released her proposed fiscal year 2024 budget about a month ago. With the expected reduced revenue this year, caused in part by vacant office space downtown, hard choices are going to have to be made. But we're still very glad that the mayor's proposal includes funding for a lot of things that you all advocated for and that Councilmember Pinto requested for projects, including the full renovation of the playgrounds at Thompson Elementary, Farragut Park extension and activation, as well as funds to repave streets, alleys, and sidewalks all around Ward 2. Councilmember Pinto does also have many concerns with proposed cuts to the Department of Behavioral Health's community response teams, who handle mental health crises and are meant to be available 24/7 as an alternative to 911 for situations where they may be more appropriate, to staffing at other public safety agencies, to victim services funds, and to circulator routes that Councilmember Pinto would like to see expanded rather than cut. Committees are now marking up their budgets for the next few weeks, followed up by the first budget vote, which will be on May 16th, and the final votes in early June. Councilmember Pinto's top priority remains improving public safety, and as chairwoman of the Public Safety Committee, she is working to ensure the budget addresses the needs of agencies, communities, and survivors of violence. As some of you may remember, last month, Councilmember Pinto hosted a series of gun violence prevention roundtables to bring the government and the community together to develop some actionable solutions. And our team is now taking that feedback and the issues that were raised at the hearing and developing legislation to meet the needs that the community discussed. Councilmember Pinto recently reintroduced the Recovery Act as well, which is her blueprint for making sure our downtown is resilient, vibrant, and safe. I'll post a link in the chat so you all can read much more about the bill in detail. Downtown recovery really is something that we believe is critical to our budget and funding for all of the projects and programs that we value. So it's important that your at-large council members, apart from us, of course, hear from you about why you believe this is so important. So please consider sending them an email or leaving them a message. I think especially as residents of the downtown, it'd be really valuable for the at-large council members to hear from you all. Councilmember Pinto also introduced legislation to lay out a comprehensive plan to remove and replace all lead water service pipes in DC by 2030 at no cost to homeowners. And I also want to promote that this Saturday is Earth Day, and Councilmember Pinto will be hosting her Ward 2 Earth Day cleanup in Shaw from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m., starting at the Bundy Dog Park near 5th and P Streets Northwest. So feel free to join for as long as you'd like, or you can also join a cleanup closer to downtown if you're able to find one. I know we have some in a bunch of different neighborhoods, but we'll be attending the one in Shaw this Saturday. We'll have supplies there, so no need to bring anything, just come as you are, and plan to head to the Dacha Beer Garden afterwards for some cool beverages after some hard work of cleaning up the neighborhood. After a warm winter with a little snow and lots of graffiti, DPW is now accepting graffiti removal requests via 311 again, as I'm sure many of you are happy to hear. So if you do see any, please feel free to snap a photo and submit a request through 311. For private property graffiti, DPW will now deliver them a waiver, which property owners can now submit via email for the first time, thanks to the council members' advocacy to DPW. And finally, I want to remind everyone that you can visit brookpintodc.com to sign up for our email newsletter, and you can follow the council member on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. And I'll go ahead and post links to everything I mentioned in the chat in a second here.
Thank you so much. We appreciate that, and we do appreciate Councilmember Pinto advocating for the continuation of the circulator as well, which is a huge, I think, disservice to the city by removing that. And you know, I work in healthcare, and downtown is like the heart of our city. And without a good, thriving heart, the rest will come to a demise sooner or later. So we definitely want to be engaged in the revitalization of downtown and making sure that that happens. I just as an aside comment, I was a little surprised at some of the bids proposals of 7th Street, which I still am have major concern about shutting 7th Street down for busway and bicycles only. That is something that the community has really fought against, and it just keeps returning over and over and over again. And I just want to make sure that there is ample community engagement before any decisions or discussions like that would happen. So
absolutely, and there will be, of course, you know, downtown bids recommendations or visions are not final say for what DDOT ends up doing, and you know, it's just a larger part of DDOT's engagement process and what they'll take into account. And I know DDOT comes to present very often at ANC meetings as well, and I'm sure they'll be back as the project continues. But as of now, there's, you know, nothing's been finalized, and there should be plenty of opportunities for community engagement for 7th Street or any other projects in the area. And that engagement should come from DDOT as well. And if you all feel that it's not coming from DDOT, you can let us know, and then we can go ahead and take that to DDOT and say, hey, people in 2C are feeling that they're not being listened to enough, and we'd like some more community engagement on this issue or that project.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. Commissioners, do you have any other questions? Then any community questions? Then we will move forward. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate your update. Anybody from Chairman Mendelson's office? Okay. Let's move forward in our agenda, and we'll move on to local events that impact the community. We have the 2023 National Veterans Day Parade, which is Sunday, November 12th, 2023. Ooh, I can't believe we're at November 12th. anybody from the Veterans Day Parade with us this evening?
Yes. Can you
Hi
hear
there.
me? Hi. My name is Fran Ventura. I'm the Executive Director of the National Veterans Parade Foundation. And
thank you so much for being here.
yeah, it sounds pretty good. Well, somebody needed to do it, so I guess. And well, yeah, there's never been a national parade to honor our men and women who've served in our country in the armed forces.
Oh wow! Is this could you tell us a little bit more about like what's going on? What's planned?
Yes. Well, Sunday, November 12th, we chose Sunday as opposed to Saturday, November 11th. We thought that
I think we might have lost you.
yeah, we have a delay. So
okay,
see how that's working here. I'm not sure why there's a delay, but well, how about if I go ahead and then I'll open up the
yep
for questions from the floor. So I'm gonna turn this down because it's annoying to hear myself. So we've submitted a site plan, and our parade is going to be on Constitution between 7th Avenue and 14th. We forwarded this site plan to you, the ANC, and this is our first local outreach. We thought it important to get the local feedback of the communities that might be affected and to answer any concerns or questions you might have. We wanted it on a Sunday. We won't have any animals. We won't have any, there's no alcohol. There's no permits for any other celebration other than the parade itself. So our website will be helpful, and that's nationalveteransparade.org. We formed a nonprofit. My partner and I, Lou Williams, we formed a nonprofit so that we really could, number one, pay for the parade, as you know what the expenses are. There's now a $10 million umbrella for liability that is over $30,000. So that's part of a lot of the expense. But whatever we have left over, we're now involved in starting a fundraising campaign. We want to, following reaching out with you, is to go with the Mayor's Office of Veterans Affairs to find out who the local veterans agencies that we might be able to help. We're very concerned with veterans suicide prevention. Without spending a lot of time, I'd like to get into it more, but we have over 1,000 veterans that have trained service dogs in Afghanistan that had to leave their animals there, that are suffering greatly because they're finding out what's happened to their best friends. We'd like to be able to provide trained dogs for them. There's a couple programs that do that help suicide prevention through animals. Plus the homeless, there's food bank issues we'd like to address. We're just concerned with, we feel comfortable, we'll pay for the parade, but what's left is going, we're volunteers. This is all volunteers. We'll have veterans groups marching. Marching bands from around the country want to come there. This first year is going to be a seeding year, but we feel it'll bring a lot of course, pride to the community. It should be in Washington, D.C. in the district because this is the place that the parade should be. But we feel it'll bring some business, some hotel business and restaurant business that the city needs. And it's nonpartisan. There's no agenda. I worked for years in the New York City Veterans Parade. It was the only parade in New York City that never had protesters. Nobody protests the veterans. So even though we have 22 dump trucks slated for blocking each one of these intersections for safety, of course, but we don't anticipate any undue police presence other than just standard protection for the community. So there's questions if you have, you can go through our website. We'll look for volunteers, sponsors, veterans groups, and band participants. So, boy, if there's any other questions, I don't want to take up all my 5 minutes with just rambling here, but I'm excited about it. We're happy to have it. It's been a year and a half of planning. The mayor's special events task group, and a lot of the members there, and they're really excited about it. I think at 7th Avenue, as you see here, south of Constitution down to Independence is your 7th Street, which you're concerned with. That's going to be bus staging and float staging, and then under the MPD had suggested we hold 6th Avenue as extra staging north of Constitution, because they thought that would be good to have if there wasn't enough room. So those are the only streets closed on staging, and then of course we'll go that half a mile 14th, and that stops just short of the National Park Service. So they felt comfortable that they didn't have to get involved with jurisdiction. Going north on 14th is going to be motor coach staging along where the Reagan area is, where a lot of buses already have been done. They drop off to go to the food courts and such. So they're used to dealing with buses over there. They'll load on the right side, so the doors on the curb. The motorized units will be making the left and going south, and then they have to go back to load back up, depending on how they're set up. The floats are not going to be self-propelled. You'll see if you go on our website that has the parade rules, everybody driving a vehicle has to have their certificate of insurance and a valid driver's license, of course, but they'll be using a pickup truck to tow a float. It's much safer than having somebody underneath it controlling a float. So we have the allocation for the 20-foot fire lane on Constitution. We have all the fire hydrants are all marked there. The trees are marked. Not putting bleachers up. It'll be people on the street, on the sidewalks that are viewing the parade. So, boy, with that, if there's any questions you might have, boy, I'm happy to. I tried to undo my video. Oh, there we go.
I have
That's
a question.
me. Hi, everybody.
Hi. I have a question. What are the hours that you're going to have the street closures on that day, on the 12th?
Sorry, if you could repeat that. I just turned your volume up.
Oh, sorry. What are the hours that you'll have the streets closed on Sunday, November 12th?
Yes, from 10 a.m. is going to be where the streets are closed. The parade starts at noon and it ends at 2. So from 10 until 4 are the street closure times. We'll be putting up the no parking signs on I think it's 48 hours in advance, whatever the call directions are. Yeah, so it'll be mid-morning to mid-afternoon.
Great. I did not realize this was your first year, too.
I'm sorry.
Oh, I did not realize this was your first year.
Yes, this is our first year. We tried to get the permit last year, and it was September before we got the right vibe, and all of our sponsors were already committed to other projects. So we knew with the expense involved, we didn't want to take it on and announce it and make it a formal public announcement if we weren't absolutely sure we had the funding. This year, we feel very good that we have the funding in place. We have a great organization. As far as experience, our team has worked with the NFL and Major League Baseball. I've worked with Macy's, the Tournament of Roses production, so we know how to do parades. We have a great team in place, and we wanted to make sure we had everybody there, both financially and with expertise, to really do something that we can make the city can be proud of. I mean, that's what we need in cities. So we think it's going to be something that people can feel good about.
That's great. Awesome. I think this is an awesome opportunity, and I can't believe that we have not had a parade like this in the city. So I would like to move that we send a letter of support for the 2023 National Veterans Day Parade for their inaugural year.
Well, we appreciate it, and we won't let that. Your confidence in us will not be disappointed. I can assure you.
Awesome. Is there a second, commissioners?
I second.
Okay.
I think Thomas beat me to it.
Thomas is seconded, and all those in favor, if you raise your hand. So 4 of 4 commissioners voting in favor of that. We'll get that letter off to the mayor's office.
Thank you all so much, and I appreciate your time. And I can understand from what I've already heard an hour and a half before that there were many other, and I really appreciate you being able to hear something good. So thank you and good night.
Awesome. Good night. Next we have on the agenda Bill.
Thank you very much. I'm on part of it. My name is Lou, and I was listening in. I appreciate that. I'm a long-term veteran. Actually, I'm a long-term resident of the District of Columbia formerly, and I know how everything go. And our main concern is the safety of the general public for all wards that were performing the parade. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
Next, we'll move forward to Build Within, a 4 to 6 week IT training program for DC residents. Is Lee Manley here? Okay.
Hi, I'm Leah Sandel.
Oh, hello. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good, thank you.
Thanks for having me tonight. Yeah, I'm here with representing Lyft, and I'm here with my colleague.
Oh, hang on one second.
Sorry.
We're not to Lyft yet.
Oh, Lee Manley. I thought you said Leah Fantel. Oh my goodness.
I'm sorry.
You're like mispronouncing it. I'm so sorry.
That's okay. Anybody else?
I'll let you go ahead.
No, I'm a terrible pronouncer, so it could very well be. Well, let's move forward since we don't have anybody from Build Within. Let's move forward with Lyft Scooter Education Program and Leah.
Okay, sorry about that. Yeah, I've had my name pronounced a lot of different ways. That is one of them. But yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm here with my colleague, Anthony Mitchell from Lyft. I am a community active mobility educator and contract with Lyft. I'm not a direct employee, but I get the chance to work with the community and just share scooter safety education. It's part of as part of Lyft's, I guess, contract with the city to be offering electric scooter services. We also offer community education, so working with people to learn how to use the system correctly, and just how to use the roads correctly using scooters. They're kind of an unusual, like a new way to get around. And so I just wanted to present today briefly. We're just trying to, I guess, do like little micro educations at ANC meetings, and also to let folks know that we do in-person educations around the city, like doing pop-up clinics about like once or twice a month typically, sometimes at community events, sometimes as one-off workshops, and just getting folks to have the chance to try out the scooters and learn how to use them correctly and safely. So I just have a really quick little presentation kind of like talking about our new scooters and sharing information about the new ones that we just came out with. And then I'll have a really brief time for Q&A if there's patience and time for that. Give me just one sec to do a screen share, and we'll jump right in. Cool. Let's see. Go to slideshow. Here we go. Give me one moment for this to wake up. Apparently that's not liking that. We don't necessarily need the slideshow, but oh, it just went away. Okay. We'll try and bring that back. There's a little bit of a delay. But anyways, as we're getting started, I just, I wanted to share a little bit about myself. So I have lived in DC for about 13 and a half years or so. I've been a bike mechanic and an educator since about 2014, and I use bicycles, public transit, and scooters for most of my transportation around the city. DC is really small. It's just about 10 miles across or so, and so the chance to I think that like bikes and scooters and other active mobility options tend to be a really great way to get around the city. Scooters are kind of a great way to connect like point to point for like short trips around the city as well. And as long as they're being used in smart ways, they are a great option for that. So I guess the presentation might not be working. I'm not quite sure why, but I'll briefly try and go through this. But yeah, the Lyft, we have a new fleet of scooters. You might see them around town. They're kind of a reflective white color, and they have bigger lights, bigger wheels for rolling over things safer, bigger batteries for longer, just longer battery life and longer rides. They still have a 10-mile-an-hour speed governor, and yeah, they're just kind of they now have 2 handbrakes instead of just one, and turn signals as well, which is kind of a cool new safety feature. And yeah, so usually what I'll include in my safety education is just talking about where to ride safely. So we don't endorse riding on sidewalks in the central business district, or ideally in most of the city, it's not the best place to be riding a scooter. You want to be on the streets, ideally in bike lanes. It's going to be the safest option. And yeah, just trying to be encouraging folks to be respectful of other road users and other sidewalk users. And then, yeah, I guess, yeah, as far as locking them up, when I do my trainings, I'm always encouraging folks to lock safely. We have in the platform a requirement when folks end their ride, they also need to take a picture of their scooter locked up to an object, and those are checked. So it's a way to kind of like make sure that folks are using the system safely and correctly. So the idea is you're locking a scooter up to a bike rack or a signpost, not blocking a sidewalk, and not leaving it on private property, not leaving it in the middle of public spaces. And the photos are a way that we try to encourage that behavior. And that's kind of what I usually will cover. I also talk about the Lyft Community Pass, which is a really cool program where it's an equity initiative and with that we offer where anybody who receives DC government benefits is able to be eligible for a subsidized pass to use the system. So it's $5 a month that gives you unlimited free 30-minute rides. It's super cool. It complements the Capital Bike Share Community Partner Program and Community Pass Program, which is $5 a year membership, which gives unlimited 60-minute rides. So it's really great ways for folks to be able to get around the city a little bit easier. Those all can be applied for just really easily on the Lyft website. And that's kind of the quick and dirty of what I usually will go over. I have a couple of minutes for Q&A because I know we're kind of getting a little bit on the later side, but just, yeah, thanks for having me. You can probably take about 2-3 minutes of Q&A.
Thank you so much. Where do you normally do your trainings at?
Yeah, they vary. So sometimes it's community events. So if we're popping up at like festivals and stuff like that, we'll do them there. I also often will use, there's kind of this like nice wide sidewalk that's like on 5th and, it's like, what is it? Like 4th and K Street Northwest, like near like a bake joint, the bakery over there. There's a space with kind of a nice little circuit of bike lanes we practice in. And so we'll meet up in front of the bakery and then kind of do like some practice just using the bike lanes and using intersections and stuff like that, and like practicing locking up and using the app and stuff like that. It's about a 1-hour training that I do a couple times a month.
That's great. That's great. I appreciate you holding the trainings. I know that.
Thank you.
We probably have more questions for Anthony as the public policy person, but I know that there appears to be no, to my knowledge, no recourse for scooters to be left blocking sidewalks, attached to things that they're not supposed to be attached to. If they're attached to something they shouldn't be attached to. Even if a picture is taken, they're there sometimes for weeks before they are moved. And nobody not many people, I shouldn't say nobody, uses the bike lanes for scooters. They are riding on the sidewalks downtown. And we have to do, Lyft has to do, and all the other scooter mobility companies have to do a much better job of getting those scooters off the sidewalks. And that's going to have to entail the development of some kind of technology that prevents them from riding on sidewalks. It is very much a problem.
Yeah, some of the technology already works. So like our scooters have I forget what the exact term for it is, but it's almost like a GIS governor that's based on a map of the city. And there's certain areas that actually have a limiter where it should, when it works correctly, it mostly does. It actually does prevent riding on sidewalks in the central business district, and it prevents riding through parks and through, I think, parts of the National Mall as well. It tends to work pretty well. It's not 100%, but that's as far as like enforcing it, that's not as much of my I also wanted to mention really quick, I think my computer battery is almost dead. So if I disappear, I'm really sorry about that. It's all really good points.
Whoops, I think we just lost it. Okay. Anyway, sorry, Nancy. Do you want to go on record with something?
Yeah, I would just wanted to amplify the first part of your question about leaving them. As a power wheelchair user, the problem has gotten much better than it was when they first blighted the city, but people leaving them in places that obstruct the accessible route, either the curb ramp or the width of the sidewalk, where I cannot traverse as a legal pedestrian that I am in a power wheelchair, is an ongoing pet peeve. My question is, what are you supposed to do when there is one left, either locked up or not locked up, a scooter left in a place that it should not be, that obstructs my accessible route? Should I call 311? Is there a picture? Is there a way to report it to Lyft? What am I supposed to do?
That's a really good question. I guess if it's unlocked, then I guess, possibly a good option would be trying to move it yourself. It's really the quickest option, obviously. You can report it through,
again, I'm a power wheelchair user. You don't want me moving with my 400-pound power wheelchair.
Definitely not.
As tempting as it is. I have never.
I know. I'm so sorry. Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. The reason that I try and do the education is hoping to reach folks so they know to lock them up correctly. As far as where to report them, calling up Lyft customer service, calling 311 are both really good options, and could be a way to get them to be taken care of.
I would like there to be an accountability that the last user at that moment should get banned from the system or fined, or there ought to be some consequence.
There is, I believe, a way for I think there is some program where, like, if the photo is not showing that it's locked up correctly, and it's caught by one of the viewers of that, then I think there is possibly there is some kind of accountability. I completely forget what it is, and I would love to get back to you on that, because it's an issue that I really care about too. And I can get an answer for that for you. If you can feel free to shoot a message.
Hey, Leah, can I jump in?
Is Anthony there?
Yeah, I'm going to throw you a lifeline.
Please.
Hi,
yes,
folks. Anthony Mitchell, Senior Policy Manager over at Lyft. Thank you for having us tonight. Yes, we don't want you pushing it on your power wheelchair. We would love if you could report it to 311, because all of those get routed to DDOT, who also, pings us and says, hey, this is an issue in whatever neighborhood or whatever block, can you go and move it? We also have real-time deployment of all of our scooters, so we can see if somebody is parked illegally. We can see if folks are, parked in a zone that's not supposed to be parked, and, and we can have somebody sent out there to move them. Also, if someone parks incorrectly, as because at the end of every scooter ride, you have to take a picture to record whether or not you parked correctly. 1, 2, if you attach the lock cable to something that you can. I think I heard the chair mention previously that people were attaching it to things that they're not supposed to be, which is completely discouraged. We do not want folks doing that. And so, yes, they will get fined if either of those two things happen. But the third piece here that I really want to make sure that folks know is that all of this is tracked and monitored regularly, and we do regular adjustments. So our team, regularly rides around, move scooters that are like in the street or litter in the sidewalk. Granted, our surface area is the entire district. So, if you've seen it there for like an hour or two, bear with us. We're trying to service the entire district, Arlington, and of course, Prince George's County as well. So I do want to provide some assurance there. I also left my email in the chat in case folks have issues. I'm happy to follow up with our operations team or the relevant folks on our team to make sure that those things get addressed. But ultimately, the best ways to report them is 311, because there's a tracking system where DDOT holds us accountable for moving those, but also operators like not just Lyft, but Lime, Spin, and other people can get fined by the city if those are idle for too long, or if they're blocking pedestrian roadways, or if they're just blocking public space and making it hard for people maybe in wheelchair to go up accessible ramps and things like that. So definitely want to flag that. And if you have any other follow-up questions, I'm happy to take those as well.
Yeah. I appreciate your comments there, and I don't want to be argumentative at all with you.
Oh, no, it's all good. It's all good.
But I would like if you could produce some statistics for us on how many people have been fined in the downtown corridor for parking their scooters inappropriately through your videos. And I bet that can't be produced. And I know that Leah indicated that scooters cannot ride on sidewalks. Well, that's the law.
Yes.
Yep. But the regulators do not prevent riders from doing that.
Yes.
All over downtown.
Yeah.
So if there's some software that is deployed, there needs to be a patch.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't work. I just feel like I'm a scooter rider.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for riding.
Absolutely. And I just want to say that I think it's too loose and it's too dependent on DDOT and DC government to regulate. And the scooter companies, I feel, drop scooters. And I've seen them drop scooters in places that I'm like, this is totally inappropriate for these scooters to be. Not always your scooters, but I think there are some major problems that need to be addressed.
Absolutely. I would welcome, and I know I don't want to take too much time here.
Yeah.
But I would welcome the opportunity to, maybe chat one-on-one, hit some of the concerns that you and other commissioners have so we can address those. We really want to, be good players in the market and make sure that we're, addressing community concerns. So, definitely happy to do that. We do try to take accountability measures very seriously and apply those whenever possible, i.e. through fines. We do have sidewalk detection on our scooters now, and it will actually send you a notification. I know because I got this earlier today when I was riding to go get some coffee at Starbucks. I was on the sidewalk very briefly, and it reminded me at the end of my ride that I was on the sidewalk and that you can be fined for this and things like that. So that happens at the end of the ride, at least for our scooters. But yeah, I'm definitely happy to chat more. I'm happy to do that.
That's great. I do appreciate you all both being here, and I will definitely. I'm sorry, Commissioner Rowe.
I just, excuse me. I had a suggestion. My SMD it's very rich in hotels. There are a lot of hotels, and those might be very good places for you to do more training. Yeah. Because I frequently see people putting their 7-year-old on a scooter to cross Massachusetts Avenue or other roadways in our area, and it makes me very, very nervous. Or there's like 2 adults and a small child on a scooter. So that's one of the things that I've seen that would be great for you all to train people on. I appreciate that you can't control what someone does. I know people say it's only going to be one person on the scooter. I know they have to sign that agreement in order to rent the scooter, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Whether they are actually doing that is a question. But I actually like got into a scuffle with a guy on Mass Ave with his like 8-year-old kid on a Friday night riding across what is one of the busiest streets in DC. So it would be something for you all to consider, is to do trainings at these hotels, because I think a lot of tourists use the scooters. They love the scooters, but they don't necessarily follow your rules.
That's actually a great point, and I'm happy to follow up on that.
Thank you.
Thank you all so very much for being here, and thanks for sharing with us.
Thank you so much for having us. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Awesome. We're going to move forward with alcohol, beverage, cannabis commission and licensing. And we have first up Parlor Victoria APRA 119917, Matt Minara. Matt?
Yep, I'm here, commissioners.
How are you?
Good, thanks. How are you all doing tonight?
I'm well, thanks.
Great, so thanks. My name is Matt Minora. I'm from the law firm of Malleus O'Brien and Sandground, and we're ABC licensed counsel for Parlor Victoria / Lucha Rosa. This is the restaurant attached to the Moxie Hotel at 1011 K Street Northwest. This is an already operational business, but what happened was we had to apply for a substantial change to increase the permitted increase the permitted occupancy of the interior portion of the restaurant. During the pandemic, the construction was finished and altered, and then a new owners bought the property and did a different build out to the interior portions, which allowed for additional seating. So right now, the restaurant is currently capped at a total of 245 capacity, which includes the indoor cellar, first floor, second floor, and the rooftop levels, including the summer garden. And we're asking for an increase to a total of 399 patrons, and that would only be for the interior occupancy. Again, the summer garden occupancy would not change at all. That's going to remain at the permitted 52. The CO actually came in a little less at 49. So we're asking for the ANC support for the overall substantial change and the stipulated ABC license so we can begin operating with the additional capacity sooner before the protest period's over. And if there's any other questions, or any questions at all, we'd like happy to discuss those.
Got it. So this is this ground level or?
So technically it's one ABC license, but it covers the first 2 levels of the restaurant interior and then the rooftop level as well.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. So that whole change would go from 240 to 399.
Correct. And it'd only be for the interior.
For the interior.
Where did the original number come from, 240?
Honestly, I don't know. I wasn't associated with the original ABC license application. This was filed during, I think it was right before or right in the middle of the pandemic, or right at the beginning of the pandemic. So things kind of took a halt on construction for a good amount of time. That's why it's only been open now for a couple of months rather than a couple of years.
Are those codes, though, sort of like fire safety related, like often capacity for building, there's like a reason? I don't know.
So the numbers that you apply for on the ABC license application and the numbers that come in with the certificate of occupancy, whichever one is lower is the one that you're bound to, because obviously, if the ABC board said you could have 500 people there, but the certificate of occupancy for fire safety purposes says 100, you're stuck at 100. But on the flip side, if the ABC board, if your application was lower, which is the situation we're in, and the certificate of occupancy allows for greater capacity, we have to go back to the ABC board to get their approval as well to allow ourselves to avail ourselves to the maximum capacity permitted for fire safety.
So what's the certificate of occupancy?
That's the current ones right now on the interior. Excuse me, let me just grab these. Currently, the interior portion has 240 on the first 2 floors, and then 64 on the interior portion of the roof level, and then 49 on the exterior portion of the roof level, the summer garden.
So what you're asking for is less than what the certificate of occupancy.
No. What we're asking for is to bring our ABC license permitted capacities to the same, to mirror those on the certificate of occupancy.
Okay, got it.
And it looks to me, I know that there is an existing settlement agreement with 1010 Mass Ave.
Correct.
There's no changes to this.
Correct. And I was actually in contact with the president of the 1010 Mass Condo Association this week, and she had no issues. Seemed like she was supportive of the change because it only touched the interior.
Got it. It only touches it, and you're only increasing capacity interior.
Correct.
Got it. Okay. Terrific. Commissioners, any other questions? I have one question on the table, and it's Dananto? Patricia? Okay. Is there a motion on this floor?
I move to send a letter of support for bringing Parlor Victoria's is it now not Abra, it's Abca?
Oh yeah, that's Abca, Abracadabra.
Abca certificate of occupancy, to align with its certificate of occupancy.
I will second that. And all those in favor, please raise your hand.
Excuse me, hello?
Yes.
Hello?
Yes.
This is Linda Patriarca speaking. What does the fire commissioner say about the certificate of occupancy about that?
They're the ones that issued the certificate of occupancy.
Because we were there just last week, and I don't think that facility could hold 400 people. I mean, it's really very small.
It's 399 across 4 floors: the cellar, basement, second, and roof level.
No, but those floors are small. I mean,
I'm sorry, we have a motion on the floor. We have a motion on the floor now to move forward. There was a second on that. All those in favor? So 3 of 3 commissioners voting in favor of that. I have one commissioner that apparently has dropped off. I don't see Thomas.
I'm here. Can you see? I'm here.
Oh, I don't see you. I'm sorry. How did you vote, Thomas?
In favor.
In favor. So 4 of 4 commissioners voting in favor of that. So we will send a letter of support for that. And I would like to also move that we send a letter of support for the stipulated license. Is there a second?
Second.
Second with Thomas. All those in favor? So I see 4 of 4 commissioners voting in favor of that. So we'll get both of those off for you.
Great. Thank you so much. We appreciate it.
And we have next on our agenda is Flora Pizzeria. And Matt, so you're up again.
Yes, that's again. So this is an application for a new retailer's Class C restaurant ABC license at 1875 I Street. This is going to be for one of the food vendors within the International Square Food Hall. This is for Pluma DC LLC, trading as Flora Pizzeria. The capacity we're looking for is literally, there's actually none specific for the specific vending station. Rather, it shares in the overall communal seating for all the food vendors in the hall. So it's sharing a capacity of about 200. It's 199 capacity and 200 occupancy load. The only endorsements we're seeking are the holiday extension of hours and the alcohol carryout and delivery endorsements. The hours we're seeking are the same that are previously been approved for the other vendors. It's 6 a.m. to 2 a.m. during the week and 6 a.m. to 3 a.m. during the weekends. And for the alcohol beverage carryout and delivery endorsement, 6 a.m. to 1 a.m. daily.
Commissioners, questions?
This is part of the square?
Correct.
Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Great. I'm very excited.
Yeah, and actually these folks, the team behind this also, they have an existing bakery up in Union Market called Pluma, and it's also very good. If you're hungry for something in the meantime, I recommend checking it out.
Awesome.
Where's the location again? I'm sorry.
That's the International Square, that building they were renovating on 18th and I. It's 18. I think the address is actually 1825 to 1875 I Street because it spans the sort of that huge section of the block.
Okay, it's like a whole
Yeah.
block.
It's adjacent to the World Bank.
Right, yeah. Okay.
Awesome. So I like to, Matt, do you need a stipulated license?
No, not for this one. Thanks for asking, though.
I like to move this, that we send a letter of support for Pizzeria.
Second.
Awesome. All those in favor? So four commissioners voting in favor of that. We'll get that one off for you too.
Great. Thank you so much, commissioners. We appreciate it.
Wait, there's no more on here for you?
No more for me. Not tonight, at least.
Awesome.
Thanks again.
Thanks so much, Matt.
We appreciate the support. Bye-bye.
Hey, Commissioner Schenkel, can we
Yes.
take like a 2-minute break before we get to the next licensee application?
Sure.
Is that okay?
That-
I will be right back, I promise. Just working out of my office today, so
Got it.
thank you.
Just take a break here for a second. Matt may be hungry. Let's see here. Oops. Jane, that is a very good question that you just put in the chat there. I do not know what is wrong there, but we will find that out. All right. Commissioner Strauss, are you in the room? There she is. And Commissioner Thomas, there he is. All right, we're all good. Okay. Next on our agenda is TWBDC Chinatown LLC, Tom's Watch Bar at 781 7th Street Northwest, Abra 119403. This is a request for a substantial change to their license and the addition of a entertainment endorsement for inside the premises. We do have an active protest that is in place with Tom's Watch Bar that we're trying to resolve at this time with them, and then this notice came out. Anybody from the establishment?
Yes.
No.
No.
Oh, Tom, no, we're a resident.
You're from the residents, yes, and I know what you're going to say. Absolutely, 100%.
Yeah, sure.
You got it.
I am with you. I actually had a call with Andrew Klein before the meeting about this. And I know that he has been having some challenges accessing the client. Michelle, I see that you're on as well. Have you had challenges?
Yes, I have. When we were, I know you were not present at the mediation, but when we had mediation, there were a couple of representatives of Tom's Watch Bar there. One of them by the name of Shannon said he was going to be in town last week and that he would love to reach out and meet with people from residences of Gallery Place. And as far as I know, nobody has heard from him. I haven't heard from him. I know Mr. Marks, who is on the board, and he's a resident of Gallery Place. He's here present this evening. He also hasn't heard, and neither have the Mr. and Mrs. Patriarchas. So I don't know.
Nor has his attorney.
Yeah. Nor has his attorney. Right.
Just saying.
So, you know, we obviously we're I mean, you know the posture of this matter, but we do have a protest hearing scheduled at the beginning of May, which we're, you know, unless we understand more about this entertainment endorsement, we may not be prepared to do that.
Yes. I would like to move that we send a letter of support. Not sorry, but scratch. So sorry.
Wow.
Pass out. It's been late. I would like to recommend that we send a letter of protest for Tom's Watch Bar and the entertainment endorsement. And
Seconded.
yes. All those in favor? Okay, 4 voting in favor of that, and we have some residents voting in favor of that as well. Okay, got it. We got it. We'll get that off to you guys. Sorry to keep you on so late, but thank you.
That's okay. Thank you so much.
Commissioner Schenkel, we are grateful once again to you for coming to our rescue. Tom's Watch Bar is a huge corporation. They just got a $30 million infusion of capital. John Elway, the former quarterback for the Denver Broncos, is on their board. We're up against a very, very powerful corporation. And we are so grateful to you and your fellow commissioners for coming to our rescue again and again and again. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And I do apologize for missing the mediation hearing. I totally screwed my schedule up. And I had the wrong day, and I found out afterwards. I was like, oh, I'm sorry.
It happens. If you don't mind, you know, maybe you and I can speak offline in the near future.
Yes, let's do that. I will reach out to you. I know that we've been going back and forth a little bit. Let's do it.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right. Have a good evening.
Thank you. You too. Next, we have 5 Iron Golf DC. At 575 7th Street Northwest, Abra 117509, a substantial change to the license.
Yes, Andre Barlow here from Doyle Barlow Mazard. I stepping in here for Camellia Mazard.
How are you?
Good. Nice to be on with you. I've endured the entire meeting, and I don't want to take too long here. But you know, 5 Iron is you know, kind of a new kind of urban way of you know, experiencing golf, right? So they've got you know, simulators, you know, with golf courses, is the place to go hit golf balls. You know, they have, you know, even leagues. They've got training. There's, you know, it's a place where you can go for, you know, packages, you know, booking parties, things of that nature. So what happened is, I believe when the application was put in to ABRA, we didn't do it. I think some other advisors put in the application for them. They got a restaurant license. And what we're doing now is, so we're doing no changes to the business, no changes to how it operates. It's always had a full service bar, and it's always had a you know, a food menu. But what we're doing is changing the technical aspect of the license from a CR to a CT. So moving from a restaurant to a tavern license. And I think, technically, because, what goes on when you have the restaurant, your food sales must be a certain percentage. And I think, what they've found is their food sales aren't meeting that percentage. And I guess you can understand why it's kind of a golf setting. This is one of a kind of an entertainment, type of establishment that really isn't your sit-down restaurant where you're going in and getting, the high-end, food menu. So that's all we're doing here. Just kind of moving from a technical move from a CR to a CT license.
Got it. Any questions, commissioners? And this is in the Terrell building, Terrell Square. Am I about the right building?
Is that right? At the 575 7th Street.
Is it the former Rosa Mexicana?
No, that's going to be
What was there before?
I'm not sure.
let me look it up.
I think they're actually down the street a little bit from.
Oh, okay.
Me Vita going in where
opened,
Rosa
right?
Mexicana was.
You have opened, haven't you?
Yes. It's been open for
yes
for years. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. They're down the street from Rosa Mexicana.
Yeah.
A quick question: since you have been open, are there residential neighbors like right above your venue? I'm just not as familiar with that area.
I'm not sure.
Okay.
I know there's never been any complaints. It's not like a nightclub or an establishment like that. It's more of a kind of a golf setting in
Right.
the urban.
Okay, I was just curious because I don't know the building itself.
In the newer residential, it's catty corner to the. It's across the street from the Kimpton Hotel, the Monaco Hotel.
I think that this makes sense to me. I think I questioned it when they first came to us. I was like, "Oh, you sell food? Like a lot of food?" Okay, but that makes sense to me. Any questions from anybody else? Let's send a letter of support for the substantial change of the license from a Class C restaurant to Class C tavern for 5 Iron Golf DC.
Thank you.
Okay, and that's seconded.
Yeah, sorry.
By Commissioner Rowe. All those in favor? Awesome. 4 voting in favor. Do you need a substantiated license to start?
No. We're letter support would be great. Thank you.
Okay, got it. Okay, we will get a letter of support off.
Thanks again.
Thank you so much. Appreciate you. Okay, next on our agenda, we're on the home stretch here. I have 639 Indiana Avenue Northwest, Penn Quarter Sports Tavern, requesting a continuation of their streetery, which occupies Indiana Avenue, I believe. And do we have Michael Brandon? Yes, Michael.
Yeah, I'm on.
Yeah. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm well, thank you.
Commissioners, thank you so much. I know it's late. I'll try to get through this as quick as I can, but it's kind of extensive. We've been, prior to the pandemic, we were riding like an all-time high. We felt like the business couldn't be any better than what it was. And then here comes the pandemic and everything shut down. Thank God DDOT stepped in with the street parklets. Because of our location, we're on a one-way street as downtown can be. This street back in the 70s was converted and the way it's shaped with this wide promenade of a sidewalk to allow each of these businesses to operate like we currently are. It was supposed to be, you know, a streetery like we have, a market, things of that nature. So with what was planned back then, we're one of few that are kind of contributing to what that vision was supposed to be. When things shut down, it was very stressful for us. But again, when we reopened, the thing that saved us was the streetery. And since over the last 3 years, we've kind of built our business around it. We've hired full-time managers. We've hired more people in the front of the house, back of the house. And again, 3 years later, I feel like the business is now as strong as it's ever been, running differently because, you know, as you know, a lot of the businesses downtown aren't there, but we're solely surviving off the local tourism, you know, in the fall and the winter. And then you come into this time of the year and it's national tourism. There's people coming from all over the world. Convention center is open, and all of a sudden there's reason for larger groups to gather, and people are still conscious of what they went through. So a lot of people want to be in this outdoor environment and space. So the city has now made it so that we can apply to make these parklets permanent. And, you know, the way I think our business has treated this and followed the guidance from the mayor's office, everything we were supposed to do, every pivot we were supposed to make, we were asked to, you know, businesses to do what we're doing and, you know, bring the business out to the street and kind of make it thrive and activate it. We've done that. So now we're at a pivotal point. And for us to go back to the business that we used to run before the pandemic, if we were to give this away, we'd be in a real dilemma because we'd have too much staff, too much management, and we'd have to convert back to a smaller business. Now we're running a larger business. So today I'm kind of in a position and I need some help. I'm looking for my ANC's support in keeping this parklet. Over the last 3 years, we've had 0 warnings, complaints. In effect, I think it's kind of helped us help the neighborhood because we're out to the street and people are seeing us more. Every Saturday, we're pressure washing the streets. We're getting to know the downtown bid folks on a regular basis, the ones that work there, all the red coats. And the bid actually helped with the drawing that you're looking at. So if you want to get into this and see it, Commissioner Schenkel, are you able to zoom in a little bit on that parklet area?
Oh boy, you're asking me to do something here that.
Well, anyway, you don't have to zoom in. If you can see the rectangular dark green areas running from the east side of Indiana Avenue down, those are all tree pits.
Yeah.
So each one of those, there's a tree inside of. Inside this fencing, our parklet is very safe. Again, it's a one-way street on Indiana Avenue. There's parking on both sides of the street. These Jersey walls were given to us. We spaced them out perfectly. Every picnic table we have inside of our parklet is behind a Jersey wall. This portion in gray that's on the street, this isn't something that we have to address now because its time is not up until next year. So we do have a permit for this whole space, but what DDOT is asking from us is to get approval, you know, from our ANC, our surrounding neighbors, everybody involved for the sidewalk portion of this. If we can get approval there, you know, sometime next year, I'll be doing the same thing and asking for approval on the street.
Got it. Do you have fencing around this area now?
We do. And I tell you what, if we did not have that fencing, I don't think we could run that area. The crime, like not crime, I shouldn't say that. The street presence of guys coming out of the shelter that kind of hang out in this immediate area is at an all-time high. So there's kind of like an in and out directly in front of our space We always have like an attendant of sorts, whether it's a manager or a trusted employee, monitoring who's going in and out of there. Once folks are inside here, it's a very, very safe, nice space.
Got it. That's, I mean, like, I was just down there just this past weekend and I did not notice the fencing. So it's.
So the fencing that we
right in.
use, I think we're one of maybe only a few that are using this exact fencing, but it's like a crowd controlled barrier, painted real nice. It's painted black.
I mean, that's
so
why
it kind of just fades into nothing, but it's there and it's high enough where, and above that we have like a steel wire that would be like, for a 6 foot tall man, it would be kind of chest height, making it virtually impossible to quickly jump in and out of that space. So we've done everything we can to try to secure that space for our customers and our employees and myself. And we feel like it's been, you know, we've been doing this for 3 years almost with this space. The space was given to us in September. This September will be 3 years. No incidents, no warnings, no nothing. Actually, what we've gotten is praise because we tend to clean more because we're occupying more of the block. So we're cleaning, when we pressure wash, we start at the corner of 7th Street and we go down past 633 up onto the steps and that platform. So it's like literally like half that block.
Can I ask about the fence? Did you have to get special permission to put up a fence, or they were like, here's your street, or you do what you want with it?
Yeah, when DDOT was opening this up, I think there was so much going on that a lot of the controls that they probably wish they had now, they didn't have in place then. But honestly, I think the fencing that we have could be useful around the city and other applications. I mean, ours is a little bit different because it's not just in front of our building, but it's stretching, 2 doors down. And because of that, that fencing is kind of vital.
So you're saying a restaurant, if they want to do a streetery now, they would not be allowed to do that?
No, I'm not saying that. There's no,
okay.
Yeah, we're allowed.
There isn't a rule about it.
Yeah, I could forward you the rules and regulations that they've come out up with now.
Yeah, no, it's okay.
But you are allowed to have fencing.
I guess I'm wondering why more streeteries don't have fencing as well.
Yeah,
I think it's rare.
Yeah, there are some I've definitely seen a couple up on U Street, but it's a different type of fencing. If you think of the beer garden that's on 5th Street, I forget the name of that place. There's like a German style beer garden there. They've done theirs basically enclosed in wood all the way around. It's like almost like a lattice look where there's like a 6-inch plank of wood and then 1-inch opening, 6-inch plank of wood. So there's, people have thought of different ways to make their space, nice for their guests, but also safe.
Yep.
This looks great. I mean, I think that this makes a lot of sense. I think that you have done a really good job of activating that area down there. Are there any comments from any of the other commissioners or community?
This is Thomas Lee. I think I've been to Penn Quarter Sports Tavern quite a bit, and it's always been well run, great food, and I think it brings a lot of activity and to the neighborhood. It brings a lot of people out onto the streets on quiet nights, and it does, I think, add to the safety. Having the streetery out there, I think, adds to the safety of the overall neighborhood because you get people outside, and keeping, helping keep watch over, over the neighborhood. So I'm very much in favor of this application.
Awesome.
Thank you.
And Suzanne?
Yes. Sorry for the squeaker noise. We have a new puppy. I own a condo right across the street on Indiana Avenue. And I'd like to just reemphasize everything Thomas just captured, that because we've got more people there in the space, it keeps the block safer. The way Mike has enclosed it protects those of us that frequent the place from people that otherwise harass you. It's the only streetery I can think of that I've been to where I had that level of protection. So I appreciate that. And I think Mike and his team have done a great job of maintaining that public space along that end of the block. Better job, frankly, than the city has in years past, including now. So speaking as both a private citizen and the vice president of the Pennsylvania board, I'd like to say we are totally in favor of this.
Awesome. That's great. Okay. I would like to move that we send a letter of support for Penn Quarter Sports Tavern and the extension of their sidewalk cafe. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Strauss. All those in favor? Or 4 voting in favor. I see the hands. Okay, awesome.
Purpose for a second there.
Terrific, terrific.
You guys are so great. Thank you so much, and thank you for your time.
Do you want me to send that to you? Are you submitting an application? Or
yeah, we're going to be putting together like a proper packet, and I'm going to go steps further with letters from the neighbors and other folks involved. So obviously, yours is going to be on the top of the pile. We're going to have other letters in there as well.
Awesome. We'll get a letter.
Thank you kindly.
You're quite welcome. Thank you.
Appreciate you guys.
I believe we do have an addition to our agenda and this tonight, and this is related to 801 17th Street, the penthouse extension of that, and this is BZA case 20917, and we have Lee. Yeah, where's Lee? Yeah, oh, there's Lee. Okay, Lee. Hello.
And I'm with Allison Prince. We'll be presenting, and I'll share my screen.
Awesome. Thank you.
Great. I'll try to be really quick. I know it's late. This is one of those very, very simple habitable penthouse cases that you've seen a couple of them so far. This office building that was built in 2009 has a mechanical equipment penthouse, and they'd like to add a very small habitable penthouse, which they were unable to do at the time that the building was constructed because the regulations didn't allow for it. It's just tenant amenity space. And the only reason why we need to go to the BZA is because it's in the White House security area. Yes. There's a designated area, several blocks, where the Secret Service has to review these habitable penthouses. The Secret Service has already been up on the roof, did not flag any issues or concerns, just was happy that we're communicating with them. So we expect the support of the Secret Service. Our hearing is not until June. We are going to the Commission of Fine Arts for this very small addition. Don't expect any issue there. I've got Jason Acors from Stream Realty on behalf of the owner, acting as the owner's rep. He can answer any questions you have, or I can, but we're simply asking for the ANC's support. You can see that orange area on the roof is the area of the expansion. It's 500 square feet. It's the size of an efficiency apartment. It's set back properly. We don't need any other relief, just that White House security review, which is the reason why we have to go to the BZA. And the BZA has approved, to my knowledge, about 6 or 7 of these. You're going to be seeing these regularly because, buildings need to be amenitized to attract and keep tenants in this very, very challenging office environment. Although this building has lots of tenants, so that's good.
Yes.
But if you have any questions, or if you'd like to hear from Jason directly, he's here.
Hi, Jason.
Hello.
Do you want to add anything, or?
No, just let you know I'm here if you have any questions.
All right. This looks this is really straightforward too. For me, does it? Yeah. And Lee, did I see you send a letter template for this?
No, but we're happy to if you'd like us to.
All right. Please. I always love people sending letters of a template for us. Commissioners, do you have any questions?
I don't have any questions. Well, I do have. So this 500 square foot space, that's just going to be like loungy area, workspace for building workers, lunch spots, just general open.
Yes,
space.
exactly.
Right.
Or if they wanted to host some sort of event, potentially.
Got it. I like it. We need
Okay,
more.
meeting.
Definitely. I like to move that we send a letter of support for 801 17th Street and for the new penthouse floor plan.
Second.
All those in favor? 4 and 4 voting in favor. We will get that right off for you.
Thank you so much for your time tonight.
I appreciate you
everyone.
hanging in there with us. We have Commissioner Lee has sent through the the financial quarter reports. Do you want to go through those?
Yeah, are you able to pull up the first one?
Sure, hang on one second. Whoops. I have 2 keyboards and it's causing me a lot of drama tonight. Okay, here we go. Let's see. Okay. Coming right up here. I think this is going to do it. Please let me know. Am I showing the quarterly financial report?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to zoom in. I'm going to zoom in. This is for quarter 1.
Yep. In quarter 1, fiscal year 2023 includes the months of October, November, December of 2022, because the city starts its fiscal year in October, as I was explained to me today. So this is how much we have in our bank account right now, which we're still trying to get access to. We've received $6,000. We have $72,000 available to us as of quarter 1. We spent $1,000 on, I believe that. So there is the expenses are in the next page. There you go.
Minutes.
Yes, minute services. That's it. Yep. And so this was provided to us by Dawn, and starting next month, I'll be doing these myself. But she was able to help us out this month.
Got it.
So we have to pass a resolution, a motion with specific wording, and we need to record this in our minutes. Hold on a second. She says that. So let me sign into my ANC account here. Oh, if you check the email I sent, it gives you specific wording that she needs us to include in our minutes. Otherwise, they'll turn it down and have us do it over again. Let me see.
Oh, they need the exact wordage. Oh. Okay. Do you want to make a motion first to approve the quarter 1 financial?
Yes. So I would like to put forth the motion to approve the 2023 fiscal year quarter 1 quarterly financial report. And I need a second.
Is there a second? Yay, seconded. All those in favor? So 4 of 4 voting in favor. So the verbiage is the 2023 quarter 1
fiscal year quarterly financial report.
you have it?
Yes, so she says the minutes that approve these reports must read 2023 quarter one quarterly financial reports have been approved.
Have been approved.
Mhm.
Exact wordage in the notes. Okay. Oh yes, I see it up there. Okay, so we're gonna open the next one up here. And I'm going to zoom in here for us all to see, I think. Am I broadcasting? I can't tell.
Yeah.
Okay. There we go. So Thomas, take it away.
So there were no, so balance forward was $71,000. There were no receipts from the city allotments. We did have direct office costs of $500 for minutes, and then there was a $50 cost for the ANC security fund.
Got it. Got it.
So those were expenses.
Awesome.
So we need to pass the motion. So I put forth the motion that we approve the 2023 quarter two quarterly financial report.
I will second that. And all those in favor? Okay, terrific.
So I need to send this around and I'll get everyone's signatures. Now, the Secretary of Certification, is that Kristen or is that the city?
That's Kristen.
Okay.
Do you you're gonna do it by DocuSign?
Yeah, I'll send it around via some form.
Got it. Sounds great. Wonderful, and we'll get it right back to you.
Thank
I'm
you.
sorry, can I just ask a quick question? This is just a, we didn't get an allotment in this quarter?
We did not, and I wonder, I don't know why. It may be that perhaps we are still lacking some documents. I think I have
Okay, got it.
They do not necessarily go, you don't actually, you get an allotment each quarter. You don't necessarily get it in the quarter.
Okay, thank you. I was just curious since I apparently have to certify this.
Yes.
Why we didn't get our money.
That's why you saw $6,000 on quarter one, because they shoved it at the very end.
Got it. Thank you.
Out the door. Yes. Okay. Any other business? Awesome. Then I'd like to move that we close the meeting. Is there a second?
Seconded.
Yay, we're done. Yay. Awesome. Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
And thank those of you who hung on there with us. Have a great night.
Have a great night.
Bye.
Good night.